Hey everybody, this is Natal.
This is Mike.
And welcome to the second episode to the second annual Footsie's Awards ceremony.
Lots of seconds.
Lots of seconds, lots of twos. This week is comic books.
Yes.
How interesting is that?
Very exciting. If you guys watched the Footsies last year, we only focused on video games, but me and Natal are big comic nerds,
Yes.
and we just couldn't keep that in anymore. We made comics a big part of Fight Your Rival, and it was only appropriate to talk about our favorite comics, favorite comic moments, all of that happened in the year in comics. So.
Definitely. And just like the Phoenix Force, we can't control it. So we're going to start with our first category, and that is Best Writer of the Year.
Yes. So there were a lot of great writers that put out amazing work. I personally have to give my award to Scott Snyder, who has pretty much done everything you could want to do this year as a comic book writer.
Definitely.
He's kept Batman going strong, which, as a new DC reader, his Batman is one of my favorite takes on the character yet. It's very accessible, very fun to read. He also launched Superman Unchained with Jim Lee, which is the most epic duo. I mean, that's like the real life Batman Superman getting together.
Seriously.
And which is another great DC book. And then he also had The Wake, his own comic, very interesting, more science fiction oriented, more independent feel type of comic. And he just put out a ton of great stuff. He's totally on fire right now, and no matter what you're into, you'll probably find a Scott Snyder comic that you like this year. So, huge props to him.
My guy that I chose is also probably one of the hardest comic writers in town right now, and that's Matt Fraction. If you guys don't know who Matt Fraction is, he is currently doing Sex Criminals. He is known for his popular Hawkeye series, and he's also working on Satellite Sam. So I definitely picked him just because of his work predominantly on Sex Criminals. Haven't really read his work on Hawkeye, but I've heard nothing but great things. But I have to say Sex Criminals is probably one of the more interesting titles I picked up in a long time. Obviously, I was drawn to it by the name.
Of course.
Didn't know what I was getting myself into, but saw Matt Fraction. I was like, I'll use that as an excuse. Got it, read it, and it was good. 3 issues in, it's a pretty solid title. I definitely recommend it, guys. Matt Fraction, Sex Criminals.
Awesome. Shout out to Matt Fraction. Obviously, he's one of my favorite writers for Hawkeye, and he's also just one of Marvel's heavy hitters. He handles a lot of the huge event comics, stuff like Fear itself. He has Inhumanity coming out. So there's pretty much nothing he can't do, and he seems to be juggling a really huge workload and still doing a great job. So props to him. While there are no shortage of incredible comic writers, it's the comic artists that bring the work of these writers to life. And just like with the writers we nominated, there was so many great works of comic book art that we had to talk about this year. So if I had to choose, I'm giving my Footsie for 2013 to Stuart Immonen, who, if you guys don't know, is the artist for All New X-Men, and he has a really unique, very colorful art style, and it worked so well for All New X-Men, which was kind of the big X-Men relaunch book of the year, and that brought the 5 original X-Men back from the past, into the present state. And his art just really pops off the page. That's the best way I could describe it. It's eye candy, but there's also a ton of detail, and I just love his take on all the X-Men characters. And that's not all he does, but that's of his work, that's really what stood out in 2013 for me.
Awesome. I mean, his work is incredible, but my Footsie for Best Artist of the Year definitely has to go to Greg Capullo. If you guys don't know who Greg Capullo is, from the 90s and up, he was the artist for Spawn, and finally he's not doing Spawn anymore, and now he's working with DC and Scott Snyder and doing Batman, the new 52 Batman. And just like as you love Snyder's writing an aspect of Batman, I really enjoy Greg Capullo's art. I think both of them work well together, go hand in hand. And guys, he has a very clean style. It's one of my favorites, and I think he just does a phenomenal job. Definitely portraying what Batman's about, especially during the Death of a Family series.
Yes. Huge shout out to Greg Capullo.
So now that we got Writer of the Year down and Artist of the Year out of the way as well, when you combine those, you're going to have epic moments in comic book history. So this category obviously is Epic Moment, comic book history for the year 2013. A lot of crazy things happened. A lot of big, giant stories happened this year. I mean, they happen every year in comics. That's just what comics do. But I would have to say my epic moment of the year was during the Trinity War from DC Comics when Superman went apeshit and killed Dr. Light. Pretty traumatic, like, guys, Superman doesn't kill and blah, 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 blah. So it's great to see him, like, go over the edge once or twice. I mean, DC had a good explanation as to why he did it. Not going to tell you because you got to read it. But that panel of him just literally disintegrating Dr. Light's head from just his eye beams was out of this world.
Now, Superman did a lot of murdering this year. Injustice, that storyline. I mean, he's had enough.
He's sick of it.
Yeah, he's sick of it. He's ready to kill him. And just like it's really awesome and kind of crazy to see our favorite heroes show their evil side, it's also kind of crazy to see some of our favorite villains take the role of a hero.
Yes.
And that's exactly what happened in Dan Slott's Superior Spider-Man. Otto Octavius performed a mind swap that essentially put him in Peter Parker's body, and for all of 2013, he has been Spider-Man, the Superior Spider-Man.
Yes.
And issue 9 of that Superior Spider-Man series is my favorite moment in comics for the year. And that's when essentially, basically throughout Superior Spider-Man, Peter Parker's conscience is still there. Every time Otto wants to do something bad, he kind of hears Peter in the back of his head. And in issue 9, he finally finds a way to eradicate Peter.
Yes.
And what happens is this epic mental battle between Otto's brain and what's left of Peter's brain. But the way it's represented visually just looks like a classic showdown between the classic Amazing Spider-Man and the classic chubby, old school, Dr. Octopus that we know him from the classic comics. And because people's memories are involved, we see, Aunt May and Mary Jane, we see all the Sinister Six and all these classic Spider-Man characters come together in this crazy battle that really, really sets the course for the rest of Superior Spider-Man. So that's hands down my moment of the year.
And that moment definitely leads to some other superior moments in Superior Spider-Man. If you guys don't read that comic, you should read that comic. It's so good.
Yes.
So good.
Speaking of comics you should read, our final category for the comics footsies of the year is obviously Comic of the Year.
Obviously.
So there were a lot of great series, a lot of great books, a lot of incredible moments. We laughed, we cried, we enjoyed the art. What was your favorite comic of the year?
Wow. Well, I've been reading a lot of old comics, but I won't count them because they didn't come out this year. But there was a lot of great stories I've been following up on. But I would have to say the comic of the year that I've picked up and I've been reading and I'm like, wow, this comic's actually really, really good. I think it's going to have to definitely be Superior Spider-Man. Now that I'm completely caught up on 24 issues deep, it's incredible. And I know Peter Parker will come back soon and blah, 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 blah. But honestly, Marvel, I love Spider-Man my whole life, but it's crazy to even hear me say this. Don't bring back Peter Parker. Don't.
Yeah.
What you got now is great. It's gold. It's fantastic. It's something very different. I stopped reading Spider-Man because of that maximum clonage garbage with Ben Reilly and Spider-Side, and it was bubbling Spider-Man on rooftops, and Green Goblin gets killed. What? Ugh. I stopped reading for years and years. And then once I heard it, I was like, what? Doc Ock is Spider-Man? Wait, looking like Peter Parker in his body?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to read this, and I have not been disappointed one bit. Every issue, great. Even the boring filler ones, they're important for a reason. So, comic of the year definitely to me has to go to Superior Spider-Man.
Yeah, that was easily one of my favorites of the year. As I just talked about, it was my favorite moment. And it's proof that taking risks works.
Yes.
You do something as bold as killing Peter Parker and you can still have a great Spider-Man book. It really says something about just Dan Slott's writing and just the way it all came together. And, all the characters are there, so it's still a classic Spider-Man story. And seeing the way Ock Spidey interacts with these people instead of, Peter Spidey, it's awesome. It's something that just has to be experienced. And Marvel has swept our footsies for 2013 because my favorite comic, and I'm pretty vocal about this, my favorite comic of 2013 is obviously Matt Fraction's Hawkeye. The book started in 2012, but it really came into its own this year. If you guys don't know, it focuses solely on Clint Barton as well as Kate Bishop, who's a female Hawkeye. And it's not this huge bombastic superhero tale. It's the story of just their day-to-day lives, living in a Brooklyn apartment, trying to make things work, trying to balance their superhero life with just their personal life. And it feels like an independent comic. It feels like an indie comic with Marvel characters. The art by David Aja is brilliant. really emphasizes that indie feel. And anyone could get into it. You don't need to know about the Avengers. You don't need to, there's some nice cameos, but it's really just all about Clint trying to be the best man he could be in the situation he's in. And it also had one of the best issues this year, Hawkeye 11, which was told entirely from the perspective of Clint's dog.
Yes.
And with no words and just the most brilliant scripting and brilliant structure I've ever seen in a comic. So if you want something fresh and that's also really accessible, please check out Matt Fraction's Hawkeye.
With that being said, that's it. There goes the second portion of the Fight Your Rival second annual Footsie's Awards. So with comic books and the players out of the way, what should our fans be expecting next?
They should be expecting our favorite thing in the entire world. That is video games.
Yes. And not just fighting games, all video games that are out there. It's going to be a good one.
Next gen, current gen, portable, anything, checkers, chess.
Board games are not safe.
Nothing is safe.
Nothing is safe.
So please tune in next week as we conclude the 2013 Footsies and talk about our very favorite video games of 2013.
Yep. And one more time, this is Natal from Fight Your Rival.
This is Mike from Fight Your Rival.
And remember, guys,
keep reading.
Keep reading.